Big banks woo Trump for roles on blockbuster IPO. This is Wall Street Journal story. This was a couple weeks ago. Goldman Sachs chief David Solomon was at the White House this summer pitching President Trump on why his bank should lead a huge coming deal, the initial public offering of mortgage giants Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Midway through the presentation, Trump invited a group of athletes from his Council of Sports and Fitness. Solomon continued speaking as former president, a professional wrestler, Triple H, and golfer Bryson looked on. It was surreal meeting, befitting what is perhaps the strangest IPO bake-off ever. All of the major banks have been working to land roles on what could be one of the largest stock offering in history. In doing so, the banks are wrestling with a host of novel issues thanks to the unpredictability of Trump and complicated nature of taking government back entities public. The winners stand to earn not only hefty fees, but bragging rights for having worked on a deal that could reap the government billions of dollars. What could you tell us about what's going on here?
It's the biggest potential IPO in history, and I would say you have the world's best deal maker working on it, and it's been nothing but a joy to see him in action, both in that meeting and in other actions. You have every bank, Patrick, coming into the White House. I mean, they all want to come in, but we've had about 6 meetings with 6 different banks.
All the big ones.
All the big ones. And they're sitting right there in front of the Resolute desk, and they're pitching the president and, oh, sir, and it's funny because some of these guys, they weren't so friendly to the president in his years where he wasn't a active president, for the last 4 years.
Does he remind them in those meetings?
I don't want to say what he does or doesn't do, but I would just say, I'll talk about what they do, which is they kiss his ass.
They do.
And they deserve to kiss his ass. Number one, he's the leader of the free world.
Do they apologize? Can you say that? Do some of them sit there and say, look, I was an asshole to you 4 years ago?
It's even worse than that. They're just kissing his you-know-what. And, yeah. That's
sincerely, do you feel sincerity or do you feel like I effed up?
Depending on the person, but I would say it just depends on the CEO. So it's been fascinating. But, you're seeing, again, I don't want to get into the specifics, but, CEO of Bank of America, CEO of Goldman Sachs, CEO of JP Morgan, CEO of Citigroup, they're all coming in. It's been fascinating to watch them in real time, too.
Look, we've all read The Art of the Deal. Right now, my youngest son is reading The Art of the Deal. Yeah. My oldest son already read a few years ago on, I think one of the most important skill sets is learning how to negotiate and maneuver in these types of things. What did you see that's from the book that, Mar-a-Lago, hearing him speak in different places versus now, what have you picked up on the negotiation side that is maybe, I never know, this was an interesting approach he took.
He works with people. He'll work with people. And then when they won't work with him, well, then he has to do what he has to do. But what's been super interesting has been seeing people who've been adversarial at first. And it's just like, why aren't you working with him? I don't understand that. What do they think that they gain by being adversarial with this guy? It doesn't make sense. And I think you see that even with the trade partners, right? Like the countries that have come first, and I think Howard Lutnick and Scott Besson have done a good job with this, is they've teed these things up. And it's the countries that wanted to work for Trump. They didn't have animus or this anti-Trump or this Trump derangement syndrome. I mean, it's a real sickness. And if you're not infected with that, you can actually negotiate pretty well, in my opinion, with him.
What was the phone call that was made that he wanted you to work for him? What did that phone call sound like?
I think it was in-person meetings. So it was kind of interesting. I'm trying to think about everything that I can say, but it was super interesting. Elon Musk was actually in the first meeting that I had with the president about serving in the administration. So that was super. It was like a job interview with Elon Musk. And
so Elon was also asking questions.
He asked a couple of questions.
Wow,
yeah,
okay.
This was back during the transition. So that was very interesting. And yeah, so that was just for a generic job, not for the specific job. But then once I did this job, the president, he said some nice things, and he said, make sure you do a good job, et cetera, et cetera.
Very
so
cool.
He's been on it, and that's what's cool is he's a real estate guy, so he's all over this.
Well, you're also a real estate guy. The family. One question I want to ask you is: every year, Goldman hosts this family estate planning meetings where you come in and you meet with all these other billionaires, the Crow families. There, all these other guys are. They're talking about G1s, G2, G3, G4, G5. Your grandfather, who starts a PulteGroup, the valuation today, market cap, give or take $25 billion is where it's at. And at one point, he was the chairman, 10%, running a company, doing his thing, of course, as the founder, but at the tail end of it, when he passed away, I think his net worth was around $4 billion. Did very, very well for himself.
Yeah, I don't know if you know, but we had to go in and kick out the CEO. Did you read that part of the story?
No, I did not.
Yeah, in 2016, I led a fight to kick out the CEO of PulteGroup. And shortly
was the
before
CEO
he died,
relative or no?
No, it wasn't. And it was disappointing because he had thought, okay, I'm going to give it to this guy. And he didn't give it to his kids. My grandfather didn't. And then the stock just continued to suffer. So in 2015, 2016, I led this initiative to remove the guy. And yeah, it was quite crazy. So talk about G1, G2, G3.
That's kind of where I want to go with it, though, because when I'm sitting there, and you want to get ahead of it to see what things they did right. You'll see a lot of videos and pictures of him and all the kids and the grandkids and the great-grandkids and talking about the role faith played and charity played and all this other stuff. But when you're at that level of money and you have that kind of wealth and that many kids and grandkids, what did the family do right that you can teach others that are going through this for estate planning to manage G1, G2? Like, hey, one kid is sitting there saying, I'm a Pulte, I'm automatically going to get this. No, this is not how it works. He says, I'm not here to solve your problems. I'm going to take you there, but from there, it's got to be on you to go out there and do it. Did you see some ways that the family, the way he structured it, where it was like, you're going to fall into this tier, into this tier, into this tier. If you want to really go up and do something with the company and make a lot of money and have, you're going to have to do X, Y, Z. Was there certain structure set up in the family?
Yes, but there always is at the end of the day, and you probably know this with your kids who are interested in the business and want to do things, and then there are other people who don't want to do it, right? And it's, there are winners and then there are losers. And I'm not saying people in the family are losers, but I'm just saying, it's all about your interest level. And so I think he kind of came to the conclusion at some point in his life, like, look, it is what it is. I can't change a lot of my kids. If some of them want to be in business, great. If some of them don't want to. His biggest regret, Patrick, was he gave some of the family members when they were 18 years old some stock in Pulte. And it ended up being worth a lot of money. But a lot of them pissed away the money. And so he was very upset that he had done that. And he never got over that with himself. So I think if he had to go and do it all over again, he would have restricted their wealth, restricted the ability for them to have any resources. And my dad actually did the same. And I think that really helped me out quite a bit. Because, if you give a kid, when they're 18 years old, a bunch of money, we know that happens.
What he's saying is, he's not upset that he gave him the equity. He's upset that he gave it to him at 18 where they could, cash out and take the money. He didn't put the restriction that they can activate it at 35 or 40 years old.
And then they get married, and then their husband or wife, they want to hire a financial advisor, and then the financial advisor says, oh, you might not want to own Pulte homes. You might want to diversify. Well, that's the worst effing mistake you could have made, was diversify, because Pulte just went boom, boom, boom. The stock just kept going up. So it was
how does he, as a big, strong person, how did he keep everybody together? Were there traditions, rituals, gatherings, Thanksgiving, Christmas? What were some of the rituals in the family?
He was the godfather. He was the patriarch, and it's not the same now with him being gone. But I just learned a ton from him. I'll say this, working with him is very similar to working with the president. They're very similar type of people.
In what ways?
First of all, they don't see mental prisons. So, and you know this because of your great success you've had, nothing is impossible to the two of them. They're also very visual thinkers, so they think in construction and building type terms, and so that's fascinating. A lot of other presidents, I think, are more wonky-ish and stuff like that. With the ballroom and stuff, it's like they just hate it because they can't build what he could build. They don't have the talent to build what he could build. Like this is a guy who knows quality, right? You've been to Mar-a-Lago, right? There's no other president who, you put nothing against Obama in this sense, but he couldn't put together a ballroom. He was out in tents on the White House lawn. So I'm just saying that the level of business genius that I observed in my grandfather and learned from him, I also see that in President Trump.
Yes, but was there structures? Like, I guess what I'm trying to find out, this is the last question we'll ask and we'll move on. If you want to work in a family business, you must do ... get an MBA. If you want to do this, you have to. Was there certain requirements that he put together?
No, and at some level, he just wanted to see who wanted it. And I was the only other Pulte in Pulte homes other than my grandfather. So, but I was with him. I remember one of my
You're the only other Pulte in Pulte homes outside of your grandfather, even though your grandfather had 14 kids.
That's correct.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. Him and I were extremely close.
Well, when you go to his profile, for a man to have 14 kids, the only other name that there's a link to is you. Right there, if you look, and that's kind of, because if you go to click on relatives, don't click on relatives right there, it's only Bill Pulte, right?
Yeah. And he had the same name as me too, which is ironic.
Yeah, that's one, which is ironic. Yeah. So Which means your father it was your father's name Mark.
Mark,
which
yeah.
named you after his father.
His dad, yeah.
Which shows admiration.
Yes.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So only you. So how is that? Was it because you wanted to? The others
You just
didn't?
wanted it. You just wanted it, and you did everything that you could to learn to be of value to him. I'll give you an example. Like in 2011, it was terrible. One of my uncles passed away. So you had 9 biological kids, 5 stepkids, so 14 total. One of the uncles passed away, and he was just a tough German guy. He was very sad that his son died, but he was just very matter of fact. Well, we were in the funeral home for a couple of days, and him and I were in the corner talking about business, and it's just. Everybody thought we were crazy. Like, what are they doing? If we're here at a funeral or what have you, or at a wake, and you're over there talking business. So, but he was just that kind of guy. It was just pragmatic. He was very upset about his son. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, are you there in those moments with him? And then we would do a bunch of different things. I started my business. We were in the countertop business. I got him involved in the countertop business. I'd fly him in to meet with the company. This is when he retired from Pulte Homes, and he'd help design different sink products, different faucets, all kinds of things. So I was learning with him and from him. And a lot of other people, and I don't want to say this about my family, but they weren't really interested in spending that amount of time with him and getting him to help in that way.
Was he hard charging? We're like, I would never work with him. He is crazy. He is like nonstop. Is that kind of like that scared them a little bit where they didn't want to work that hard? Or was it just like, no, I just want to go work for a charity. I just want to go.
Nobody was very tough, but you had to listen to what he wanted, and I think a lot of people, they don't listen to what they didn't listen to what he wanted. The kids didn't listen. He had all the secrets. He had all the wisdom. So I would just shut my mouth and sit there and, just try to get as much information out of him as I could.
I love it. Great story. I mean, the setting up the family to keep everybody together and keep everybody going, it is not an easy thing to do. It's very complex. And then there's a book. Everybody who is watching this, if you ever want to read a book that you're making money, or like, I want to find a way how I can protect myself against this happening for me, go read the book, The Ultimate Gift by Jim Stovall. It's one of the best books ever on estate planning. Not the movie, the book, The Ultimate Gift. Good luck putting this book down. I've been recommending this book God knows since 2004, so 2005, whenever the book came out. Phenomenal book. 2026 is around the corner. I am convinced this is going to be a very, very special year. In my opinion, I think we got this other rate cut that's coming. I think we're going to have 3 more in 2026, give or take, based on what Goldman Sachs and a lot of other people are saying. We may even experience a new person that's running the Fed by June-ish, I think June 26-ish, around that time. That could turn things around the second half of the year. If the China-U.S. trade deal gets done, it could be an unbelievable day for the stock market. However, all of that stuff going into 2026, what that means to you is nothing if you're not prepared for it going into 2026 with momentum. So having said that, if you don't yet have a plan to write out a great business plan for yourself, your family, your executives, your employees, watch this video, Rob, if you have. This is a video we shot of me going into a car, driving a car that goes 1.9 seconds, 0 to 60, and I also borrowed Vinny's old car to see, what was it? Was it a Prius? We're testing to see the difference between a Prius on 0 to 60 and then versus the Tesla Plaid. The owner was freaking out saying, I don't know if you can handle it or not. I said, I've been driving fast cars for a very long time, but I want you to watch this video. Rob, what speed do you have it on?
Just one.
Okay.
Regular.
Watch this video, folks. Speed matters when it comes down to business. Go ahead, Rob. How fast you grow your business matters. Behind me, I have a 2019 Toyota Corolla, and I have a Model S Tesla Plaid. You're gonna see how fast it goes. It's absolutely insane. 1, 2, 3. This is Vinny's car. Still haven't hit it. Come on, Corolla. 10 seconds. Oh my gosh. Still got from A to B, but it's super slow. Any of these companies that eventually dominate their competitors, their edge isn't always just product, it's speed. This took way too long to go from 0 to 60. Here we go. Now we're in the Plaid. Let's see how this does. 0 to 60. Holy shit. Oh my God, that was amazing. So notice the difference. 0 to 60 in the Corolla, 9-10 seconds. This was less than 2 seconds. So at this point, we know speed is critical in business. The question becomes, with 2026 around the corner, it'll be here in no time. How prepared are you going to be versus all your competitors? Once a year, I host an event called the Business Planning Workshop where we cover the 12 building blocks on how to write a proper business plan that drives emotion and logic. If you've never attended it, do whatever you can for you, your wife, your team to tune in together. It's the only one we do that's through a webinar, which means anybody from anywhere around the world can tune into the Business Planning Workshop. It's December 12th. We start first thing in the morning. We go till very, very late. If you haven't registered yet, click on a link below to get registered. I cannot wait to see you there. All right, there you go, Rob. Let's put the link below. For some of you guys that are only listening to the audio, go to bpw.biddavidconsulting.com. Again, bpw.biddavidconsulting.com, or the link below. Get registered. We'll spend a day together on December 12th and make that the beginning of the greatest years of your life in 2026. If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.